Hey guys, welcome to Juicy Tea, where I read out the best stories on Reddit, so you don't have to. The funny, shocking, and satisfyingly juicy. Today we ask Reddit, what's the worst date you've ever been on? Dracaris Down says, sat for 15 minutes to hear him talk all about himself, his work, and his future plans, and then, as he asked me, what about you? His hand went straight to his phone and he starts scrolling. I can't stress this enough. His hand reaches his phone at the same time as those words left his mouth. It felt to me like he'd probably decided whatever I'm going to say was going to be boring, so might as well multitask as I talk. Posted by a throwaway. Met a girl on a dating site, chatted for a week or so, and got along really well. She invited me to her place for a date. When I get there, there's a Yule truck outside, halfway loaded up. Turns out, this girl is in the middle of packing up her stuff to move to another state and wanted me to help her with the heavy lifting. She hadn't mentioned any of this in our chats. Once I confirmed it was really her moving and not a friend or a roommate, I told her, good luck with that, and got the hell out of there. Sassy Diva 13 says, so many bad dates over the years. One of the worst was this guy I met on a dating site. We agreed to go to dinner at a nearby restaurant. Turned out his profile picture really was of himself, but it was just a few years old. P.S. In person, he straight up looked like Santa Claus on vacation, complete with a Hawaiian t-shirt. I was a little unhappy about that, but it wasn't the end of the world. I thought, well, maybe he's fun and jolly. That turned out to be a big no. So, we ordered dinner, and he started talking about ex-wife number 1. She was a B, and crazy. Ex-wife number 2 was also a B, and crazy. Ex-wife number 3 was a psycho crazy B from hell. Sounds like they're getting worse. It couldn't be him, could it? He told me ex number 3 hit him in the face with a frying pan. He seemed to enjoy my horrified reaction. That was until I asked what he did to her to make her smack him with said frying pan. Personally, I thought it was an awful date and I couldn't wait to go home. He ordered dessert. I mentioned getting home soon, and he said, we can discuss that later, as he was paying for my meal, and we were going to enjoy our time together. Oh wow, so he's bought you for the night, and you can't go home until he says so? Maybe you can be crazy ex-B number 5, who had the audacity to run out on him on a date when he said no. I waited for a few minutes and then politely excused myself to the ladies' room. He stood up, watched me go in, and was watching me when I came back to the table. It was as if he knew I wanted to bolt out the door. I got my chance when he finally went to the men's room. I handed the waitress money for my food plus tip and told her I was on a very bad date. I left the restaurant just before he came back from the men's room. He saw me through the front windows and started screaming like a lunatic. I don't know what he was saying, but I ran for my car. Oh my god, that's terrifying. Piss Tuna says, I had a date that tried to sell me a whole life insurance. She told me before the date to meet her at her office. It was downtown, so I thought nothing of it. Then she walks me to her desk and tells me to sign some papers. What a weird sales tactic. Is this seriously how she gets her clients? Sadly Returned DRS says, I didn't even know it was a date. A girl I worked with was talking up a breakfast place in a nearby town. And I was like, that sounds great. Let's go this weekend. We went and I had a great time. The pancakes were amazing. And I had fun hanging out with a work friend outside of work. I thought she had a good time too. She was laughing and fully engaged with the conversation, just like normal. Like, 3 weeks later, I was talking to another coworker when it all came out that she'd been telling people that we went on a terrible date. How I didn't even make a move, or flirt, or do anything that guys she goes on dates with normally do. And how I even talked about a date with another girl at one point. I was flabbergasted. My fat butt genuinely thought we were just a couple of friends getting pancakes. Product 921 says, I went out with a guy from POF who lived an hour away from me. I live in the sticks, so this is normal. I texted him to let him know that I was on my way, and this moron proceeded to text me every few minutes asking me if I was still coming. So much so that I finally had to call him and tell him to stop texting because I can't text and drive at the same time. In hindsight, I should have turned around and went straight home right then. Finally, I get to the place where we were meeting. It was a store parking lot. Since we were meeting there and going somewhere else right away, I texted him and said I was there. Where are you? And he replies, insisting that I come into the store. He absolutely would not come outside to meet me. So I had to spend the first hour of this date following him around an auto parts store while he poured through every display and bin, not talking to me very much at all. He sure knows how to show a girl a good time. Finally, he was ready to leave the store, and I thought we were going to eat, as we had originally planned. I was starving, but he said no. I've got to return my work uniforms to my old job first. Okay, I guess. Why did he ask you out to do all his errands with him? This is so weird. So, we drove in his car to this factory, where he parks and says, hop out so I can lock up my car. It was cold and raining, so, of course, he expected me to stand in it? After 15 minutes, I was like, F this! And I went into the lobby of this place to get out of the rain. For some reason, it took this guy 45 more minutes to return his uniforms. So, I was glad that I went into the building to get warm. Does this guy have like a bet going to see how long it takes for his date to just bail? But apparently, this was a huge no-no to him, because when he came back out from wherever he went to return this stuff, he glared at me like I just dropped trowel and took a huge poop in his lap. He asked me why I didn't just wait outside in the cold rain for almost an hour. At last, he decided it was time to go to the restaurant. I sat there, trying to keep a poker face, while he talked to the waitress like he was addressing a toddler. Messily stuffed his face and chewed with his mouth wide open, and kept glancing around every 30 seconds, like he was scared someone was going to see him out with a woman in public. Plus, he kept asking me invasive and crude sex questions the whole time. Lovely. I quickly inhaled a salad and managed to pay for it at the front without him seeing me. I told him I need to go to the little girl's room and bounced. Luckily, this restaurant was across the highway from the store where I left my car. So, I crossed it real quick and blocked him everywhere before I even got the car warmed up. I betcha $1 million and a house salad that a-hole was married. My question is, how? That Brion131 says, went on a date with a chick that took my phone and put a picture of herself on my Snapchat. I got 20 messages almost immediately from chicks that said they knew her and told me to stay away. She was 2 months pregnant, didn't tell me till my friends did. That was a wild date, to be sure. She was very upset. And our last story comes from Agreeable Cat Mom. I'd been dating a guy for 3 weeks and everything was great. We clicked on most of our core values and he seemed like a really solid, well-rounded guy. We decided to go grab some drinks with some friends as we hadn't really gone out for a night on the town yet. I had a great job at the time and could afford to pay my own way. And because I wanted to, I bought our first couple of rounds. He admitted about an hour in that he didn't have a ton of money, and I told him it was okay. I could cover the evening, within reason. I gave him a 20 to grab us another round of drinks, and he reappeared with 2 drinks, both looking like what he'd been drinking for the evening. He set both of them in front of himself. I asked him if he grabbed one for me, and he looked at me blankly. He said that he misunderstood and thought I was giving him money to buy his own drinks. I told him that wasn't what I meant, but it wasn't a big deal. One of my friends bought me a drink and all was well. He downed the 2 drinks and said he was going to the bar for another one, but he was going to buy it with his money. He asked what I wanted and was off to the bar. He came back with 2 more drinks for himself and was accompanied by some random girl. He introduced me to her, his ex's sister. They sat there and talked about his ex, how he missed her 3 kids and how they missed him, and how she'd come over to see them since he was like a dad to them. She started touching his leg and flirting, and he started to reciprocate. Wait, this is his ex's sister? Oh, that is going to be a whole other story. After 10 minutes, my friends and I were pretty uncomfortable and closed our tabs. My date and this girl were so involved in each other, they didn't even notice our movement. My friends and I left and were on our way to grab a bite when he texted me asking where I was. I told him I left and he would have to get a ride elsewhere. He barraged me with messages asking how could I leave him when he doesn't have money, telling me I was inconsiderate and rude. If you start cheating in front of your date, I'd say it's pretty fair to assume you forfeited your ride. I told him I didn't appreciate the exchange between him and the girl, and that I wasn't interested in continuing dating him. He lost it and started calling me horrible names, and I blocked him on everything. After our meal, a friend took me home. As we pulled up, the same guy was standing on my doorstep, pounding on my screen door and tried to rip it open. He screamed at the top of his lungs that he was going to kill me, and I'd better take him back or I'd be sorry. He had clearly been there for a while because he'd already trashed my garden and thrown my patio furniture into the lawn. My neighbours had already called the cops, and they showed up a few minutes later to remove him. He must have learned his lesson or sobered up because after that night, I never saw or heard a peep from him again. Or maybe he's now dating his ex's sister, and they're both crying about how she won't let them play happy families with her kids. Anyone experience something similar? Or God forbid, worse? Let me know your bad date stories down below. Remember, I post new content every day, so subscribe for more juicy tea.